Hey guys, Brandon here.
Eric here.
Tony here.
Kevin here, and
We are Super Button Bashers.
And this is my first.
This is my first
And this is my first Con Expo experience.
So my first con experience, Expo experience, was ComicCon so many years ago. It had to be at least over 10, 15 now. It's when Coheed and Cambria came out with their first, or their second CD, in Keeping Secrets, Silent Earth 3. And I just barely found out that they were a concept band. I mean, I love their music, and once I found out there's a comic book attached to it, it was just like, mind blown. I heard through the MySpace, yeah, it was MySpace back in the day. Oh man, I'm so old. And I heard that they're doing signings at San Diego ComicCon. I had never heard. I was like, oh, San Diego ComicCon. I was like, that sounds kind of cool. I'm gonna head down and check it out. So I grabbed my friend Brittany and I was like, let's take a quick day trip. We went down there. It's like an hour-and-a-half drive since we live in LA, and walked right up to the ticket booth. And that's how easy it was to get Comic-Con tickets back then. Like, this is before it blew up with Marvel and Game of Thrones and all that. I walked right up, hey, 2 tickets, please. And the lady was like, okay, $25 for both of us. That is ridiculous. Walked right in. Was able to go straight to the booth. It wasn't, people bumping into you, no weird smells. It was just as easy as possible, where we just walked right in, straight to Claudio Sanchez, and I was like, hey bro, I just want to shake your hand, get your autograph. You do some amazing stuff. You're a beast of a guitar player. And this is before, like, he was, like, kind of big, so he was really soft-spoken, was like, oh, okay, yeah, like, it was like very like Michael Jackson-ish, he was like, oh, okay. I remember some lady, like, through her phone was like, talk to my best friend, she loves you, and he was just like, hung up and just kept signing photos. It was ridiculous. So yeah, that was my first Comic-Con story. If you guys like that and want to see more, my Twitter handle is Korkenstein1. If you like what you see here on the channel for Super Button Bashers, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We appreciate all you guys. Thanks.
So the year was between 2007 and 2009, not quite sure, but it was Anime Expo, and this was the year that it randomly, inexplicably came to Long Beach rather than being in its normal area in Los Angeles, Staples Center. And so I remember trying really hard to get a bunch of my friends to go, and ultimately it was just me and one of my high school friends, Danny, that ended up going together. And then we ended up finding a bunch of people that we knew there anyways. But it was at the convention center in our hometown, super awesome. One of the cool things about it was this was my actual first experience cosplaying too. And it's funny because I don't think I've ever cosplayed since. So first and last, I went as Ryuk from Death Note. Many of you know Death Note, and then my friend went as Light Yagami, and so we were a Light Yagami Ryuk team. I'm very tall, so I kind of hovered over him, and it was kind of a perfect thing. And I just remember the experience being so awesome because people were taking pictures of us left and right, and this is when Death Note wasn't even finished yet, so it was a fresh, like, at least in America, it wasn't completely published and released here. And so it was a super fresh take, and we were, everyone was like, oh, that's the demon from Death Note and Light Yagami. So that was pretty cool for us to get all that, like, a little bit of that attention. And also, like, we got put on a bunch of websites that we checked out afterwards. Also, just being in our hometown, I thought it was great. It was a place I had been so many times, and then of course, being at the convention center, we just felt like, oh, we run this town, and everybody else is outsiders, and we know all the good bars around here and stuff like that. So it wasn't very long before we ran into a few people there, and we ended up clicking really well with. I think it was this person that was a Misa cosplay that ended up hanging out with us literally the entire day. Of the first day of this con, and ended up being a thing where we actually went back to a few restaurants, had a couple drinks with her, and we had a really good time. Like, it was an awesome time, and yeah, that was my very first con experience. Now, if you'd like to hear more, check out more, you can always hit me up, MPG Brandon, at Twitter.
So the first con experience I could really think of would be, which is now known as LA Comic-Con, but before it used to be known as Stan Lee's Kamikaze in LA. I think it was the second year or third year they started doing it, and me and my buddy Ruben went, and it was actually
very entertaining because there was not really that many people there, you know, so it was very not known. I mean, compared to how it is now. Two of the biggest things that I can remember about that was meeting the voice actor from Dragon Ball Z, which was Goku. His name is Sean Schemmel, I believe. Meeting him was actually very interesting because he had a small little booth. Nobody really knew who he was at the time before Super came out. So this is years and years ago. So meeting him, he was just kind of like to himself. And I felt kind of bad, but at the same time, I was like, this is someone that I grew up watching. So it was actually really cool to meet him. You know, he was doing recordings for voicemails and stuff like that. So just to know that I got to meet him before the whole hype happened was actually pretty cool. But the biggest thing about that con was meeting Adam West, which me and my buddy heard about that he was gonna be there. We happened to get in line first. And as soon as Adam West came around the corner from a curtain to meet us all, we started singing, Adam West, and he came up to us, he goes, shh, lower, Adam West, and we started laughing, you know, it was just such like a great experience, you know, rest in peace to him, and, you know, Stan Lee for his kamikaze, but it was really cool, you know, that he was very in tune with his audience, you know, with the people that support him. And, you know, just to finish it off, it's as he signed everything, he signed it as Adam Wee. And I looked at him and I was like, wait, you're not Adam Wee, you're Adam West. He goes, no, I'm Adam Wee. And I was like, all right. And I just walked away from it. So it was a pretty good experience for a first time. And if you want to hear more stories about that, or, you know, if you're interested in anything else that we do, feel free to hit the subscribe button, comment below. If not, follow me on Twitter, @newera_panda, and also on Twitch. Laters. Sea cucumber.
I want to say it was Comic-Con 2009, maybe? I don't know. It was one of the first Comic-Cons I went to. San Diego Comic-Cons, not those wannabes. But the daytime was cool. I was like, oh wow, there's a ton of people here. Ran around trying to get, like, you know, collectible things that, you know, don't mean anything after you buy it. But I said the overall was at night. So we went into a bar called Wet Willie's, which is no longer there in San Diego. But basically you can get alcohol-infused Slurpees, right? Why would that go out of business? It's amazing. So I may have had a couple too many Slurpees, and we stumbled out of the bar. Went down the street, and Brian Posehn, Google the name, you'll see him. He's like probably the most ugliest comedian ever. So yeah, he was like walking down the street, and with all my might, I mean, I kind of feel bad about it now, I like slapped him in the back, and I was like, hey. And he turns around and he looks at me. He's a behemoth of a man, so I probably didn't even hurt him. And he's like, yes. I was like, I love your shit. So and I just kept walking, you know. So continued to walk down the street, and outside of a bar was John Benjamin and Eugene Merman, I think his name is. Basically, the voices of Bob from Bob's Burgers and Gene. And I bumped a cigarette off of him because I don't smoke, but why not? So I got a cigarette, and I was really drunk. So then we went into a bar, and what's his name? It's the guy who does the voice for Starkiller. I think his name is Hayden Whitman. If you haven't seen the show Being Human, he cries a lot on that show, but it gets you. That show is pretty intense. But basically, he is the face and voice of Starkiller. And that was the only person at Comic-Con I was like, oh, shit, it is Starkiller. So, like a drunk little creepy bitch, I'm like creeping around, just like listening to his conversation, and apparently there was talks to put him in a Star Wars movie. It was a while back. It was before Episode 7 came out. We knew Disney just bought Star Wars, or there was some rumors about something. But he was talking about he had to read a whole Jedi book. So push comes to shove, I was just like, you know what? I was just creeping on his information, just heard him talk about Jedi stuff for like an hour. And that was kind of like the highlight of my first day at Comic-Con, because I was just totally a Star Wars nerd. And if you played Force Unleashed, you'd geek out too. Fan girl. That's pretty much it. That's all I got.